Hey guys, Ben here from the Strength Factory and welcome to Factory Knowledge, my weekly video series where I talk all things action sports performance. Now, it's early January and yet we're all thinking about, how we're going to be better people this year, better on your bike, better in the gym, whatever it is that you do, you're probably thinking about trying to improve that performance or just to be a bit healthier and look a bit better and things like that. And I want to help you do that, and that's going to be my focus throughout the January episodes of Factory Knowledge. So the first thing I'm going to talk about then is this idea that we need to address the things that are limiting you and that currently restrict you. That's a really great place to start when you're thinking about changing training or starting training. So at the moment, when you go and do your sport, so let's say you go mountain biking, what is it that's limiting you? Is it lower back pain or knee pain, or you just can't keep up with your mates on like the long climbs, or do you struggle to ride past 30k? What is it? What's the limiting factor at the moment to your riding? Upper body strength when you're riding down the hill, arm pump, another great one, okay, across mountain bike and motocross. So that's the first thing to do. It's like, where are my limitations? Because they're the places that if you address them and do some work on them, that you're going to make the biggest impact onto your riding, whether you're talking about performance, i.e. winning races or just not coming last, or just enjoying what you do more, so you can then go out and feel confident to go out with a big group of guys and ride hard like all weekend, you go on a trip somewhere or something like that. So if we break that down a little bit further then, okay, and let's work through an example. So let's say it's that endurance, that's your limiting factor. You're struggling to go beyond like 2 hours or 25k or whatever it is, and at the end of the ride you're just baggage, you like barely finish and you're totally useless on the downhills. Like, it happens, okay? So we've got to then break that down and think about how to approach that particular problem, that particular issue. Now, there's going to be different factors for different people, but I'll just run through a few that are going to be useful to many people watching. Number one is, at the heart of it, that is down to improving your aerobic fitness, okay, that base fitness. And so the way we can improve that is through like low level base miles, that you might call it, okay? So if you use a heart rate monitor, that's going to be zone 2. If you don't have a heart rate monitor, then that's riding, pedaling at an intensity where you can still talk comfortably to the people around you, or that you can just breathe through your nose, for instance. Okay, so if you're nasal breathing, then for most of you out there, that's going to mean that you're riding aerobically. And doing some more aerobic work is going to cause adaptations in the muscles, in your blood vessels, and obviously to your heart and lungs as well, that are going to then help to make you more efficient and going to help you to ride further. Now, the great thing is that you don't have to do like 3-hour rides all the time. Little and often is very effective, and if you can do 40 to 90 minutes once or twice a week, then that's going to have a really positive effect on your health and also your endurance for improving your ability to ride all day. The second thing we can do is, and yeah, maybe I'm biased, okay, I'll open, but get stronger. It's been shown again and again and again that strength improves endurance, okay? So to all the out-of-date cycling endurance coaches who say it makes you slow, like, you're wrong. You're wrong from my experience. You're wrong from what the science says. It's beyond doubt, okay? Get stronger, improved endurance, okay? So that could be some body weight training, squats, lunges, step-ups, things like that if we focus on the legs, or you can get in the gym, obviously, and hit some squats and deadlifts and things like that, okay? And that's really going to pay off, improving your efficiency and ability to ride all day. The third thing, if we carry on going through this particular problem, is, well, you've just got to ride a bit further, okay? Now, I'm sorry, but at some point you've just got to bite the bullet, grizz it out, and just push an extra few K, okay, once a week or once every couple of weeks. And gradually, in conjunction with the other work, it's going to creep up, basically. At some point, there's got to be that bit where I'm currently at this level, and I'm just going to push myself to achieve that level, and then that new level here will gradually become comfortable. Whereas at the moment, up there, is really hard work mentally and physically. The final thing I'll say for the people struggling on the long rides is often they're carrying a little bit too much timber. Okay, so if you can shift a bit of body fat, which is a whole other episode, okay, then that's going to really help, because especially on the climbs, the heavier you are, the harder you've got to work. So power to weight is the king. So that's just one little topic there, but if you think, right, that is the thing that's restricting me, that is what's inhibiting me from really enjoying what I do. So that's going to be the first thing that I focus on, that I work on in 2020, by going through a systematic and consistent approach over a period of time. You're not going to fix it by February. Who cares about February? Let's think about how good you want to feel in April and June and beyond, because that is how you're actually going to get results. That's how you're going to be a better person, better athlete, better rider this time next year, okay? Stop thinking short term, think about the bigger picture. For the second part, factory knowledge this week then, I'm going to give you a little helping hand if you're thinking about starting some strength training. Now, ideally, like some coaching, either face-to-face or online coaching, is going to be the best way to get started. But there's loads of free resources out there as well online, and I want to give you a little helping hand as well. Now, when you think about starting strength training in a gym environment, what you want to try and address are some key human movements, okay? Now, you don't have to do all of them in every session, although I'd suggest you should do most of them. But if you train maybe twice a week in the gym, you should try and achieve all of them every single week. Now, what are those movements? Number 1, squat. Number 2, hinge. Number 3, some sort of single leg work like lunging, stepping up, or something like that. Number 4, upper body pushing. Number 5 is going to be upper body pulling. And number 6 is a carry, okay? Now, a carry is kind of it's valuable, but sometimes I do tend to leave that out of my programs just because people's kit restraints and things like that. But the 5 are the most important, and if you can get it, then try and achieve that carry as the last one. So let's go through them all now, one by one. First of all, we're going to go through the squatting motion. Now, if you've not done it before, then guess what? You're going to start with the body weight squat, no weight. As always for me, it's all about the details. It's about getting the form perfect. And now I'm going to give you a brief overview, but don't think of this as an in-depth squat tutorial video. Okay, so nice and simple. And until you've got that dialed, don't add any weight, okay? It doesn't matter what anyone else is doing in the gym. It doesn't matter what so-and-so's doing on Instagram or whatever. It doesn't matter. Get the basics dialed now, and it'll pay dividends in the long run. And then what I do with pretty much everyone I coach is the next logical progression is to do a goblet squat, okay? Where we use a kettlebell or a dumbbell in front of the chest. Now, the reason we do that is that, number one, it's a great exercise in its own right. It really makes you brace, and it just, really works your whole body, and it's going to really help you to sit deep in the squat and to open up the hips, which for a lot of you are going to be a bit stiff because you sit down too much. Other options are obviously, getting a bar on your back or on your front. But with those exercises, they put a lot more load through your lower back when you're beginning, and there's less room for error, basically. Higher risk versus reward at this stage in your training. So I'm always going to take someone to a goblet squat because it's a very low risk exercise, and you can still load it. Ultimately, you can still, I goblet squat with half my body weight, sometimes more. And so you can get a great training effect with minimal risk, okay? And that's what it's all about, especially when you're starting out, is get the basics dialed, body weight, goblet squat, and then with some instruction, move it on, but only when you're ready. Part 2 is going to be the hinge. Now, hinge, for those of you mountain bike and motocross out there, is basically your position on the bike, you know? So it's that slight bend in the knee, so your leg is pretty straight, hips push back, and then a flat back. So I'll show you that now. At least that's how you should look on the bike anyway. So we want to train that in the gym, and that's basically deadlifts and variations on it, okay? Deadlift, Romanian deadlift, kettlebell swings as well. And like everything, it's about drilling in the basics before we start trying to pick up anything heavy, okay? The basics are the ability to create tension in your hips, so your bum and your stomach, and so we can hit that position with a perfectly flat back on every rep. And so typically I'm going to start people off, we're going to use a kettlebell or maybe a lightweight bar, and we're going to do a Romanian deadlift is how I usually progress people on. So you start by learning an RDL, Romanian deadlift, where you just keep hitting that hinge position rep after rep. Now the key here is when you do it properly, you shouldn't feel anything in the lower back. And that's where you need to start, with learning how to hinge. It's movements like that, or you could also kettlebell deadlift it from the floor as well. But I tend to start with the RDL because then you can really dig into that back position, and you can really teach people to push their bum back into it to create tension in the hips. And just remember, this isn't an in-depth tutorial on these exercises, it's just an introduction to help guide you to start your training this year in the right direction. Okay, the third movement then. My favourite, upper body push. Well, most guys' favourite anyway. And you know what? Yes, you're in a gym. Yes, there's loads of weights. But actually, how good are you at press-ups? Most people who come and see me, not so good. So that's where we're going to start, okay? And people underrate the press-up. It's just so valuable. It's safe, it's effective, and if you do it correctly, it's a whole body exercise. Don't think of it as just your triceps and chest. If you're doing it correctly, then your whole body is tight, from your toes pressing in the floor, all the way up, your legs are rock solid, your bum is like clenched hard, your abs are like ready that at any point someone could punch you in the stomach and you take it, your hands are drilled into the floor, and so you've got full body tension, okay? And anything less than that is not a good quality press up and is only going to have limited value for improving your athletic ability in whatever sport you're doing, or just in life. So hopefully you can see there that through the whole rep, my body is completely solid. There's no like bending, dropping of the hips is a real classic one. And the whole time my elbow is roughly about 45 degrees to my body. What you see a lot of is people who aren't strong enough is their elbows come forward, and then you're in a risky position for your shoulders, and we don't want that. So if you can't currently do full press-ups, that's fine. I'll put a link in the notes below this. I've got a Pressups 0 to hero video that I filmed last year. The fourth movement is an upper body pull. Now this is often neglected by people. If anything, this should be, well up the list, okay? It's going to really transfer well to whatever sport you're doing, and it also is great for posture and reversing the effects of all the sitting down and driving that many of you probably spend too long doing. So again, there's loads of options we can do here. You can do a row on like a set of straps, like a TRX or something, but I'm actually going to use a chest supported row on the bench here because it's relatively low skill, which means it's great for getting started, and you can really get such a good training effect. It's kind of hard to mess it up. can see there, my arms are like a pendulum. They move back, up, and then I squeeze them against the bench. And that's the great thing about this exercise, is you can get that maximum contraction at the top. And so what we're really focusing on is that mid and upper back, as well as a bit of grip and a bit of biceps. Okay, so that's a chest supported row, chest on the bench. My chin was about that far off the top of the bench, nice and tight, and just that controlled pendulum back, pin it against the bench, pause, and slowly back down. No swinging, okay? No, don't just like drop the weights, that's cheating. Okay, so you remember the other leg, lower body part of the movements we need to hit are the single leg work. Now again, there's just so many things you can do here, but where I tend to start with most people is some kind of rear lunge. Now initially we're just going to do it with body weight, just get the balance dialed in, and then we can start loading it, holding in front of the upper chest here like a goblet squat. And by holding it up here rather than maybe down the side, you're working the core a bit harder, and it just encourages you to stand tall. You know, weights by the side, they can, you know, it's great, but they can make you slouch a little bit like that, especially when you're still learning. And what we want to do when we're starting strength training is we want to focus on the important stuff. So if I can hold a weight here, well that's pretty simple, isn't it? And now I don't have to worry about this, I can just worry about what's going on down here. So nice and simple there, rear lunge, and just so you know, because you know when you understand why we're doing things, it's easier to buy into the process. Okay, the reason I do a rear lunge is because it's just a lot easier on the knee of the front leg. When we're doing forward lunges, you see a lot of people, they kind of lurch forward. Sorry, couldn't get the right word, and that front knee just drives forward. There's no control; it's moving all over. And they're like, oh, my knees hurt. Well, I'm not surprised because the way you're lunging. So with a rear lunge, we're looking at that sort of safety, that risk versus reward basically. Risk, really low because of that rearward motion. Reward, we can still get really strong doing this if you dial into the details and you focus then on just really pressing the front foot into the floor to stand up powerfully. So the final one is a carry, okay? So there's loads of different things you can do here. You can do like a farmer's walk, is probably where you should start off, which is where you hold a weight in either hand and you walk. But also included in this are things like sled pushes and pulls and things like that, okay, if you've got access to that in your gym. I'm just gonna do a rack walk, okay, single-sided rack walk. So I've got the kettlebell in a rack position and I'm standing nice and tall and I'm gonna take it for a walk up the gym. Now this is only a 16 kilo kettlebell, but with it loaded on one side and trying to keep nice and tall as I walk and talk to you, you know, I'm going to feel it a little bit by the time I get to the end, okay? So alternatively, for single-sided, I can just hold the kettlebell on one side and this will be called a suitcase walk. So I'm walking along as if I'm holding a suitcase. Hopefully you can see I'm keeping my shoulders level and I'm standing tall, okay? And so that is what you'd call, they're both types of loaded carry, okay? If you've got farmer's walk, suitcase walk, rack walk, okay? I did a single-sided rack walk. If I wasn't holding this phone to record this, then you can also do a double rack walk with 2 kettlebells in the upper chest. And that's the final one of the movements. Let's finish off then just by pulling that all together, okay? It's really simple. I'd suggest that you train twice a week in the gym. That's a great place to start. It's a great place to see good, solid and consistent progress. And most people can find that amount of time in their week. Try and address those main like human movements. Squat, hinge, single leg, push, pull, and then a carry sometimes as well. If you don't do them all, like for instance, you might not do a carry in both sessions, or one session might be more squatting, one might be more hinging, like that's fine. But just try and tick it all off every week. Simple as that. Your sessions don't need to be really long, you know, especially when you're starting off, you could do just one of each, like one upper body push, one upper body pull, you know, and maybe if you, at the start of the week, they are in front of you, so the pull is here and the push is here. And then at the end of the week on a Thursday or something, the push can be here and the pull can be here. you know, and then we just start to get that balance, okay, across the sessions, and then you're ticking all those boxes off. Don't get drawn into like all this ego nonsense about trying to lift the heaviest weight and put it on Instagram, because most of the time I look at that and they're really well meaning and they're pulling like a half decent weight, but I'm like, it's horrible, you're going to hurt yourself. Like, you pulled it that time, but what's going to happen next week? You've got to get those basics right, okay? And if that means getting some coaching face to face, or like digging more into my videos, or getting on one of my online programs to give you that in-depth coaching, then so be it. That is going to be money well spent, whichever way you go, and it's just going to help you to have longevity in your training, to be consistent in your training. So if you're thinking now about summer 2020 and being absolutely pinned, okay, which is awesome, I'm thinking about that too. That comes from being consistent between now and the summer, not from going mad for a week in January and sacking it off in February, okay? Which is my message very much across everything I do. So I really hope you enjoyed it this week. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Give us a share, hit subscribe, and more importantly, let me know what you want to hear about on these factory knowledge videos. So I really want to make these videos for you every week. Thanks so much.